Former Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal RKS Bhadauria. Welcome, sir. You've been on Battle Cry before. Our previous episode with you on the Tejas program has gone viral. But unlike the Tejas, the AMCA is a future-facing project. It's still in that concept phase. My first question to you as a fighter pilot and a former Chief of Air Staff is to understand your appreciation of where things are really at with the AMCA.
Sure, Shiv. I'll try and cover things that should be known in the open domain or already in the open domain. As you're aware, this is the fifth generation platform being designed. Actually, the design started a very long time back. ADA had put a team in place, if I'm not mistaken, nearly 10 years back.
Yeah.
The design phase of this fifth generation aircraft is practically almost over or nearing completion. I think this is not very much understood. So it is not a de novo project that we are starting now. After all the lessons of LCA and the design that had become successful, this effort had started some time back, and the government had cleared a design phase, which is nearly over. So the on-paper design and system engineering, etc., has already been done. The approval of the project should be any time. I think it is almost in the final stages.
Yes.
And what this aircraft is primarily a fifth generation platform, a stealth aircraft, internal weapons, advanced sensors, of course, absolute sensor fusion. And with this time that is elapsed, I believe now elements of AI are being included fairly in a good form. The latest radars would come up, and the engine to start with will be G414.
Yes.
Later on, it would be upgraded with the fifth generation engine, so to say, when it gets developed, which GTRE is working on. So this is in broad nutshell about the project, and we can go on to details as you ask.
Chief, you've been looking at the AMCA program while you were the Chief of Air Staff, and even before that as a as a fighter pilot in the Indian Air Force, obviously looking forward to what comes after the Tejas. Could you give us your view on the core technologies and how competent and how how capable is India to prepare some of these fifth generation technologies, since these are technologies that nobody else is really going to give India, sir?
I think the primary challenge technologically is about the stealth. The stealth dictates a certain kind of platform, which inherently kind of poses aerodynamic limitations. So it is aerodynamically not the best of platforms, but from stealth perspectives, which override the aerodynamics, that is where the challenge comes in. To get a good mix and ensure that it is a very low RCS aircraft. So technologically, I think that is one. In the electronic side, the challenge is to have everything silent and stealth. That is equally important. That means conformal antennas. There could be nothing protruding your entire radar, EW, ESM, everything fused very well. When you don't have antennas, that itself is a issue.
Yes.
We have not had that kind of antennas on any of our aircraft so far. So I think electronically that is one challenge which we have to get successful. When you talk of integration on the aircraft and in the entire envelope, that is where it becomes difficult. Yes. Other than that, because from the time we started, some time has elapsed, I think the challenge is to really now bridge the technology gaps of where we are today. That would mean increased AI, very heavy networking and elements of AI being thrown in terms of data fusion, ability to handle really big
so the
data,
aircraft doesn't become obsolete.
Ability to really shorten the loop. A lot of AI in terms of giving the pilot a very clear and final picture. He doesn't have to do much of system switching. Manned-unmanned teaming is something that needs to come in within this fifth generation. Although in most places it is part of almost part of sixth generation. That element has to come in, and I'm talking of manned-unmanned with combat UAV, and practically having an unmanned version of AMCA itself.
Like the
with
Ghatak.
something like electronic pilot, what is being talked about, which means synthetic visions, all kind of auto takeoff, auto landing, your combat systems. So the challenges in terms of bringing in the latest is, I think, what we should address now, looking
Okay.
at where we are today and looking at the adversaries.
So we've touched upon the technologies. Now I want to talk a little bit about the execution because there could be some concerns there. 4 years ago, I had broken a story right here in India Today about how the AMCA program was going to be progressed as a public-private partnership between HAL, DRDO, and a large private sector company. My sense is that hasn't moved forward for various reasons. That decision was taken at a time when you were the Chief of Air Staff as well. Do you know why that hasn't moved forward, sir?
I think that is very important. It was a sensible thing to do then when it was thought about. It is a sensible thing to do today. And I think this is one challenge that ADA, DRDO, and the industry needs to really address. There are many ways of looking at it. You can discuss with the industry or the private industry. If the discussions are not open and honest, you can throw out the private industry in no time. But that is not the issue. You must involve private sector. I think the SPV model is a must in its production, and it must get involved right from the word go. I've also heard that initial discussions on this has not gone off well, and I think that is one issue that ADA and HAL need to address. If HAL is going to be part of SPV, which they should,
Yes,
but
absolutely.
more important is for the industry to be involved from the word go. Unless it is a SPV model, we will not be able to bring in the kind of efficiencies and the kind
Exactly.
of reliability, cost cutting, what we've been targeting. We would be repeating what we've been doing for the last 3-4 decades.
Yeah.
So I think that is an important point you raised, and it is not difficult. We have to really choose the right industry partner. It should be an open discussion, absolutely transparent, and I see no reason why our industry cannot be involved.
Chief, my follow-up question to that would be, why haven't things gone well? 4 years is a very long time. It's a simple partnership between public and private. Why haven't they gone well, sir?
No, I think one of the reasons is that discussions so far have been kind of preliminary in nature and explorative kind of discussion. I think ADA had one big session with the industry, which can be repeated. Important issue is how you approach this. It must be approached as that SPV is a must, and therefore we need to choose a partner.
Are you okay? Let's come to the timelines now, sir. You had the DRDO chief saying 7 years from now, end of this decade, we'll see a first flight. Is that what you understand to be the timeline? Are you okay with that?
Okay, the first part, timelines, I think at that time, 7 years was being talked about as 7.5 to IOC, which I thought was a little optimistic. But as we stand today, with AMCA, with the LCA Mark II already cleared, and those technologies will take off, many of the systems will go into Mark II. I had covered this point earlier too. And therefore, that shortens the testing time and the development time of AMCA. There are technologies much beyond LCA Mark II, which of course will get developed here. When I was talking to ADA boss recently, I think they are working on a timeline of about 4.5 years to first flight, and about 10 years to IOC.
Chief, just to clarify, you're saying 4.5 years to first flight of the AMCA, right?
Absolutely, 4.5 years to first flight of AMCA. You must realize that design phase is nearly frozen. I don't know the latest, but it was more or less there. And it's a question of now, going on to the next phase the moment the project gets cleared. First flight, initial taxi trials will start much earlier, but first flight to about 4.5 years is very much possible. And the team is really very optimistic about it. We must also realize with the recent developments, a lot of energy needs to go in from all directions, from services, from ministry, which is already happening, and from the industry and other. And if anything, the timelines need to shorten. So the more effort you put in, the faster money you put in, and more people behind it, I'm sure you can shorten this.
It's very good to hear 4.5 years is the timeline to the first flight, because the DRDO chief said 7 years. If it's 4.5 years, that's really, really good news. My final question, Chief, is a comparison between what the AMCA intends to be or hopefully will turn out as compared to fifth-generation fighters that are currently already in service, including the Chinese J-20. How do you see that comparison, sir? Will it be comparable or better than these aircraft?
I think we need to learn our lessons from the previous projects, and a lot of lessons were organizational in nature, and the involvement of entire industry, be it private sector, be it DPSUs, be it your startups, be it youngsters working on good tech, anybody. We should throw open new challenges that looking at 10 years ahead, bring in new tech and new capabilities, and we will absorb it. Those are the kind of initiatives that need to be taken. We need to be really innovative in our approach, and we need to change some of our technological thinking. Our basis has been the previous platforms, especially to do with communications, data, and assets. That means your ISR information, which will be on the net, your space-based and cyber, I can say again, your cyber security issues, your own, the moment you make electronic pilots kind of, unmanned combat capable aircraft, the cyber security issues of that itself. Yes. So these are the new areas that the industry needs to start working. So it has to be an absolute, national approach to this project. It should be our next big thing on the table, and everybody should work towards it. And I see no reason why we cannot build the best.
Most certainly hope a national approach is what happens now. There have been more than enough delays on an aircraft that the Indian Air Force had hoped to be actually seeing flying by now, an in-flight test. But we'll have to put all of that behind us and hope for the best going forward on the AMCA, because failure most certainly is not an option. Air Chief Marshal RKS Bhadauria, as always, an honor and a privilege. Thank you so much for joining us here, sir, on Battlecry.